A Mochi moment from Mark, who writes, I just want to thank you for making GLP-1s affordable. What would have been over $1,000 a month is just $99 a month with Mochi. Money shouldn't be a barrier to healthy weight. 3 months in, and I have smaller jeans and a bigger wallet. You're the best. Thanks, Mark. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Mark is a Mochi member compensated for his story.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hey Investies, I'm Eliza, one of the producers of this show. Linda is back from Illinois and is back in the Texas house. She's gone through a lot since returning home. I sat down with her last Friday to get a fuller picture of what the last 2 weeks have been like for her. This is a longer episode, so let's just get into it. So the last time we spoke, you were still staying outside of Texas. Can you tell me how you and your colleagues made the decision to go back to Texas?
Yeah, that was probably one of the most difficult decisions that we had to make. We were taking it day by day and seeing how long we could hold out. We knew we had several goals, and one of those goals was to amplify and educate the country on what was taking place. And we're certain that had we not broken quorum, this would have been a piece of news that most people would not have paid attention to. But all of a sudden, you have, 40 legislators all over the news getting interviewed on different platforms and educating the country on what is taking place. We knew that 2 members were going to go back and create quorum. So we had to make the tough decision on heading back as well.
When you say 2 members, you mean 2 members of the group of Democrats who broke quorum and left the state of Texas. 2 of those members decided, hey, we're going to go back.
Yes, they decided that based on Governor Greg Abbott calling a second special session. So what happened is we did kill the first special session. We killed it early. And then immediately Governor Abbott called for a second special session. And so we had 2 members for sure that we knew of that were going to go ahead and come back to the floor and make quorum for the second special. And so a lot of us had different opinions on how to go back to the House floor and how we would tackle this, but we knew we didn't have a choice. And here's one of the other reasons why, and folks need to understand, not only would it have cost us time out of the state to be without quorum until 2026, but also we have to present a fight with the courts. So we know we're not going to be able to make it till 2026. The second option is to present a fight with the courts, and we're on a specific deadline for us to build a case in the state of Texas on the House floor in hopes that the Supreme Court will deem these maps racist. If we didn't make it in time to present a fight and submit evidence and start that ball rolling, then we would have completely lost the case and the maps would have passed and there would be no fight in court to be had.
So you are currently building this case with your Democratic colleagues.
Yes, so we fought it on the House floor, and a lot of what takes place on the House floor is then presented into evidence that we can use. So we have specific questions that we ask, very strategic. We have a team of lawyers that help us with positioning the line of questioning that is then going to help us present a case in the Supreme Court. And so we need ample time to do that.
So when you got home, so you make the decision to go back home. After you got home, do you immediately go into that special second session that Governor Abbott has called? And then what?
Yes. So on a Friday, they end the session early, and immediately Governor Abbott calls for a second session. And we're still in Chicago. And so then we have to decide, how long can we have the members that want to return to the floor hold out? Will they hold out for us to stay over the weekend in Chicago and then come back on Monday? We had another big win, which was that California, made it official. They were going to move forward with the maps.
Yeah.
So that was another big relief for us. There were marches taking place, demonstrations taking place across the country, over hundreds of demonstrations taking place. And so we decided that we would stay in Chicago, join the Chicago demonstration as a thank you to Chicago for hosting us. And then come Monday, we would get on a plane and head straight to the House. We were anticipating that DPS would be there waiting for us, and they were.
What's DPS?
So it's the Department of Public Safety. It's our police department here.
Wow. So you had police officers waiting for you the minute you got to work, the minute you got off the plane? Like, when did you start seeing law enforcement?
We were anticipating to potentially see law enforcement as soon as we got off the plane. We didn't know for sure, and we didn't know to what extent they would get involved in getting us to the House. If there would be multiple DPS officers waiting to take us in, if we would be getting into their vehicles. We had a bus scheduled to pick us up, and we got onto the bus, and they just followed behind us and sort of made sure that we went straight from the plane and onto the House floor, because you have to remember, at this point, there's a civil warrant for our arrest. And the goal is that as soon as they identify us, to get us into the House. And
I mean, I just have to say, that sounds extremely stressful. You've been away from home for multiple weeks. You're with your child. You come back with all of your colleagues. The minute you get off the plane, there's a warrant out for your arrest, and you're being tailed by police officers on the way to your job. Sure, you serve in public office, but this seems unprecedented to me, or unusual.
it is very unusual. We've never heard of this happening. I mean, obviously, if there's been a call to the House in the past, they escort you in, but it's still unusual. And then what takes place after we get there is even more unusual, something that we've never seen before.
So can you walk me through that?
Yes. So we walk into the floor, which emotionally, I just kind of want to bring you there with me. Obviously, we know that, we are the minority party and we're not going to win. We have to identify wins, national attention. People are aware. We get to the Capitol and there is a ton of people everywhere cheering us on. And
it's intense.
It's intense. It's intense. Benny is holding my hand. We're moving through the crowd, working to get into the actual House floor. And, everyone is yelling, thank you so much for doing this. It was all positive support. Nowhere ever did we see any backlash when we walk into the Capitol.
Wow.
It was something almost like out of a movie, to be honest. We walk into the House floor and, it was really hard to push the button to make quorum. It was like a I stood there and just watched the button and didn't want to push. And I look up at my colleague, Representative John Bryant, and he's like, I don't want to push the button. I'm like, I don't want to push it either. And then we just kind of did it together, like, and we made quorum. And then shortly after that, they, alert the House that the chambers will be locked. So they lock us into the chamber, and then they tell us,
Wow.
yes, yeah, which is intense. All of this is,
Yeah. It's very carceral.
yes,
It feels like punishment.
it does feel like punishment, very much so. And we're exercising a tool that has been used since the beginning of the Constitution. And so it's also really awful to see our Republican colleagues. That isn't the other thing, you know?
What were those interactions like?
I mean, for me, some of them were extremely difficult, like discussed, especially after seeing all the things that they were saying about us online. And then others that stayed quiet and we had relationships with, it was still awkward, strange. Do we embrace? It was weird.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, having an awkward day at work with a coworker is horrible enough, right? But here you are with sort of the weight of the country on your shoulders. Takes awkward interaction with a colleague to a whole other level.
And the thing is, going through this process, just going through regular session for all of these months, you really develop deep relationships with your colleagues. I don't want to compare it to war. I can't even imagine what that is like, but it is a type of spiritual warfare. You're fighting, with your words on bills that are harmful, and the other side doesn't see them as harmful. They see us as harmful. And so you go through this process and you build really strong bonds. Bonds are also built with some Republicans that are more moderate, and they're just, I guess, surrendering to what their party has become, which is really hard and unfortunate to see. So, yeah, it's just an out-of-body experience that I don't even really have words. It's so much energy. It's so heavy. It's so emotional. It's so charged.
Hi, everyone. This is Jenny Moniz from We Didn't Turn Out Okay podcast. Did you know at Great Wolf Lodge there's adventure for the whole family? You and your pack can splash away in the indoor water park where it's always 84 degrees. There's a massive wave pool, a lazy river, and tons of water slides for your pack to enjoy together. And the fun doesn't stop there. Get ready to explore and play at adventure-packed attractions from Magi Quest, a live action game that takes place throughout the lodge to the Northern Lights Arcade. There's also a bunch of great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. And the best part, with 23 lodges across the country, you're always only a short drive away from adventure. As a parent who loves family adventures, I love when everything's in one place. It's why I can't wait to take my family to Great Wolf Lodge. So bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Book your stay today at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
And so when you press that button and you go back into quorum and you're feeling all of these things in your body, what happens next?
So the Speaker of the House goes into saying that if we want to leave, that we have to sign a paper, a permission slip, and then we get assigned a DPS officer. And I have so many questions. I'm trying to process what exactly that means. Does that mean that I have to stay in Austin? Because my intention was to head back immediately to Dallas to get Benny home and just ready to start school. My sister was visiting here from California on a trip that was pre-planned before all of this took place to meet my granddaughter. And so I just wanted to leave. I had been gone for a really long time in Chicago. I was with Benny. I just needed, to be home. And I'm trying to look around at my colleagues. There's a lot of chaos on the floor, and I'm not really understanding what I'm supposed to do next or where I'm supposed to go. And so some of my colleagues are like, you go to the back hall, and just all this chaos. I go to the back hall and I get in this line to sign these papers. And in this room, there are all of these DPS officers in like regular civilian clothes. And they're just sort of waiting to see who they're going to get assigned to. I sign the form and I don't even see anyone talk to anyone. All of a sudden, there's just a DPS officer behind me. And this is going to sound really strange, Eliza, but I felt so much relief to see that he was a Latino.
Mm.
And I was hoping that there would be some respect and understanding or camaraderie. Honestly,
Yeah, a little bit of empathy or just shared understanding.
Yes. I hate to say this, but this was a real thought in my mind.
Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah, and I saw the like older white DPS men and I was scared. It's almost like I turned into a little girl on like how do they feel? How did they vote? What are their politics? And so he comes up behind me and I feel like he could see like a sigh of relief. And I told him, I'm gonna go to Dallas. Are you following me? He's like, yeah, wherever you go, I'm following. And I said, okay.
Wow.
I walk back in the chamber and the first person I see is Representative Nicole Collier, who a lot of people may be familiar with. Yes, she's a fighter. And she looked at me and she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I signed the slip. This is my pointed to my DPS officer. I said, this is my officer. And she said, I'm not going. I'm not signing.
Wow.
And I remember when she said that, I looked at her and I was like, I didn't even consider that could be an option. And I was like, what does that mean? Are you going to stay here? And she said, yeah, I'm staying. And I said, where are you going to sleep? On my chair, on the floor, but I'm not signing anything. And she looked at me and she said, stay with me.
Oh, wow.
And she tells me that as soon as she said that, she regretted saying that. And it's because of my answer. She knew what was coming. And I said, I have Benny with me.
Yeah.
I feel bad that he's already had to walk into this situation here on the floor and all of what's going on. And I have to get him home and get him normalized so that he can start school.
Yeah.
And she just said, it's okay. I know you would have, if you didn't have Benny, I know you would have stayed.
Yeah. So the regret for her was about empathizing with your situation. It wasn't about like, it wasn't, it was between real sort of, you see eye to eye.
Yes.
So she understood why you said no.
Yes. Yeah. And she, she had spent time with Benny and during quorum break. And so she said, our situations are not the same. You go, get him home. I'm going to stay.
Wow. She's special, isn't she?
She really is. Yeah, she really, really is. So one of my other colleagues, Representative Gina Hinojosa, said, did they tell you if they're going to charge you for the DPS? And I was like, I was confused. And the reason she was asking is because during the break, DPS was at some of the members' home. Not my members, not me, but some members had DPS at their homes, despite the governor and the speaker knowing that they were out of state. And all of these charges are going to come out of our pockets.
Whoa, you mean you're going to be charged for the DPS officers' salaries for the time that they spent at your house?
Despite us not being there and them knowing that we were not there.
Wow. Okay. That also feels like a punishment.
Yes. So she was like, you need to verify that they are not going to charge you for this. And that this was Representative Hinojosa, and I was like, she's right. I should verify because that may change how I maneuver this. Maybe it may change the situation. So I go to the speaker's desk towards his office. And I'm in an uncomfortable setting. It's like I'm in the enemy's living room is what it feels like, you know? And I don't want to be there. And then there's other members and security people that I've never seen before, just sort of like pushing through me, even though I'm in line and they're like jumping ahead and dismissing me. I had never felt so humiliated, like less than. And I turn around and my DPS officer says, go in there. And he like flexes his arms and he's like, and push them. And says, and push them.
Like push the Republicans.
Like, yes, get in there.
Whoa. So you did kind of you had a moment of understanding with him.
For sure.
After all. Yeah.
For sure. Yes. It was exactly the sigh of relief. And I think the connection was like, he's like, don't get intimidated. I think he saw me shrink when I got pushed.
And he had your back in that moment. And even though he was there in this weird capacity to kind of like strong arm you through the situation, he kind of had your back.
Yeah, he really
So the
did.
intuition you had that you were on the same, that you could trust him was maybe not in vain, right?
Yes. Yes. And so I was like, he's right. What am I doing? Like, he snapped me out of that feeling of being a little girl and intimidated in a space where I didn't belong. And I'm like, I'm the member. I belong. I don't know who just pushed me, you know? And so I go in there and the girl was very kind and she took me to find out if I had to pay. Come to find out, we confirmed that this part of this process was not going to be charged to us, that this would be a process that the house would take care of. So I get out of there, and then I'm with my DPS officer, and he says, hey, I just want you to know that I respect you, and I respect that you are an elected official.
Wow.
And I don't necessarily agree with all of this, and I just want you to know that. I felt like, thank you, you know? And so we kind of just built a relationship as we moved through the building, and like a mutual respect and understanding that he was just doing his job and I am just doing my job, that we are just two people that are doing our job. So he was very kind and compassionate. And I have friends there that are picking me up and ready to take Benny and I home. And we make our way to Dallas, and he is behind us the entire time. We get here to Dallas. He tells me I'm going to stay until X hour, and then I have colleagues that are local DPS. They're local agents, and they will take over. And when you head back to Austin, I'm going to come back and follow you into Austin. And if you want to ride with me, you can. I don't know how you travel back and forth, you know, but he offered that, which was just like another, I think, way of telling me that he's, you know, respects me and my home and my space. Because
yeah, it's a gesture.
Yes, yes. And so we have a state trooper in their marked vehicle, and then we have 2 unmarked vehicles. So there's a total of 3 people here at my house. And my neighbors are WTF, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's no joke. That is a lot of police presence on what I assume is an otherwise very quiet block.
Very quiet. Yes. So we're explaining to our neighbors what is taking place and everything is okay. I have to go about my day. I have errands to run. I want to see my granddaughter. We want to go out to eat. And so I have to go to the grocery store. And so, I'm in the grocery store. I have DPS agents inside the grocery store following me at every aisle like I'm a thief. It was the weirdest experience.
Yeah. What does it feel like? You're getting groceries for your family, you're in public, your friends, neighbors, community members can see you with these DPS officers. You know that you haven't done anything wrong, but how does that make you feel?
Like I've done something wrong. I mean, I can't shake that. The situation is making me feel that way. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing, and it's also intimidating. I mean, I got really lucky with my main DPS officer, but I didn't know these other officers. There was no existing relationship there. And so it was weird to be getting my vegetables and, I mean, he's keeping his distance and watching me from afar, but it was just the most strangest waste of resources I have seen.
Yeah, it's really excessive. It makes me think about the National Guard troops who are in DC right now who are picking up trash and putting mulch down on the National Mall. It's like these grand authoritarian gestures take resources, a lot of resources, away from communities. And then you're also thinking about these people who are doing this 24-hour detail on you. They could be doing something else.
Yeah.
They could be with their families. There's just something what to me feels so deeply corrupt about that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these agents, they got pulled off of real work with, looking for real criminals, which was so bizarre. I'm sure for them as well. I mean, enough for my DPS officer to communicate that it was weird for him as well.
Yeah, and that means something. I mean, I feel that's really significant that he reached out in that way. He must have felt compelled to communicate, hey, I don't think this is right, because it's not right.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of Black and brown people in these spaces as well, and so I feel like he had that compassion of, this must be really hard on her. And it was hard on all of us to have to be treated like criminals just for standing up for what was right for the country.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're being punished. Yeah. I mean, the enormity of what you were up against, these intensely gerrymandered maps, it really is sort of like, really? I'm being punished? I'm being punished? When what was happening was unconstitutional in the state of Texas.
That's right. So I head back to the house with, DPS, and we move through the process of voting on these maps. They finally they lock us back into the chamber upon our arrival. And, we're working on the maps and with our team of lawyers that we have, making sure that people are assigned the proper questions that we're going to ask to start our case, putting up our opposition speeches, which all of this is input into evidence. And I cannot tell you how traumatic it was to be on the floor. And I hate to sound so sensitive, but as someone that is not a politician, that had no desire to get into this space, and that is much more closer to being a constituent than to be a politician, I just want to explain how awful all of this is that I'm moving through. And I don't want to explain it from a place where I want sympathy. I want for people to understand how dehumanizing this entire experience is. And I don't want to present like a politician. Politicians can't show their weakness. They can't show when they're hurting. They have to be like strong and able to execute this work. But this isn't the same politician as the politicians from the 90s. This is a completely different territory. And I am watching some of the most disgusting, vile behavior that I have ever seen in my entire life. If I could draw up hell, some of the people that I am dealing with, they would be the demons inside this hell.
Meaning some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle.
Yes.
Just the way they're treating you when you go back in there.
And the things they say and their perspectives and their lack of compassion for people, and at the same time they are saying, how religious they are, and all in the name of Jesus Christ. Eliza, let me tell you the scariest image I've ever seen in my entire life, and I have lived through some really dark, scary things. There's these group of Republican women, and there's 4 of them. And every time awful bills pass where children are going to be disenfranchised, where they're not going to have access to resources or education, these women on the House floor get into a circle and hold hands and start to pray to Jesus Christ.
That is deeply upsetting.
It's so bizarre. And watching it is, it does a lot to your psyche, especially when you believe in a greater power, especially when you believe in God. It for me at least, it makes me question a lot. And I got to see those women do their prayer circle again after the gerrymandered districts pass, and just the thought of them not understanding understanding the reality and knowing that Black, brown voices are going to be silenced through this process, and the intentions of getting 5 Republican congressional seats for Donald Trump, and seeing them join their prayer circle and, pray to Jesus Christ is just really confusing. And, there's this moment where one of the representatives is giving her speech and she calls racism stale. And there's all of these white old men on that side just supporting her speech and grinning and smiling and laughing and cackling.
No, that's unspeakable. And you know what? I know that that ugliness exists, but I'm not seeing, we as the public don't see a fraction of what happens behind closed doors. That's the stuff that people talk about. This gets caught on a hot mic, and I guess before Donald Trump, this is career-ending stuff, right? But to have people laughing and cheering on what is at its core a white supremacist action on the state of Texas Republicans to redistrict the state and disenfranchise tons of voters of color, I just feel like that is some really dark behavior. And, I consume a lot of media, and I've consumed a lot of media about this. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And, we have to vote and lose, and it's just so sad. I don't even have the words. I'm so vulnerable, and I want to maintain my vulnerability, to be honest. I hope I never harden. I hope I never get to a place where I'm harming people and it's not painful, or I don't take into consideration what they have to move through. I left and I went to my hotel by myself after the end of day that day and had a meal and a couple of glasses of wine. And I'm at the bar and I'm like fighting back tears, just trying to get through finishing my salad. And I go back up to my room and I am just destroyed. I'm destroyed at what I'm up against and how defeated I feel and how I just feel hopeless. And I'm replaying that scene over and over and over in my head nonstop. And I just have to question. I spiraled and I had to question, like, what is this place where we treat people like this, where this type of behavior is okay? And more importantly, how did I get here? Yeah, it's really hard. And I really don't think people understand what politicians have to move through.
Breaking up is never easy. But saying goodbye to your old clunky work tools? Well, that's easy. Just repeat after me. It's not me, it's definitely you. You rigid, unfriendly software. It's time to freshen things up with Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use. With stunning dashboards, customizable templates, and built-in AI that actually works, switching to a new work platform has never felt this good. So move on to Monday.com.
I think people forget that politicians are people. And I think it's because, for me, part of it is because I think of politicians as those people that you just described, who I think have lost touch with a great deal of their humanity. Because like you said, they're disconnected from the people they're harming. Ideologically, I don't know how they get there in their heads, right? But when I hear you say that you're affected by what you see, it actually I feel like that's a strength. Not being jaded, not being cynical, being sensitive, being connected to your humanity. I can't think of a better way, a better mindset to serve constituents, because it makes you empathetic to their plight and it makes you think more actively about how to help the people you serve. I think this is cheesy maybe, but I think that's a superpower. To be sensitive is strength. I think too often we hear that it's a weakness, and I refuse that.
Thank you. Thank you. I hadn't looked at it like that in this space. So I appreciate you saying that, because there's a part of me that sort of feels like a failure, that I can't be tougher. I can't let these things not affect me.
But you wouldn't be responsible if they didn't affect you. I think it's irresponsible to be disconnected from pain that you're inflicting on other people. I just can't imagine being so disconnected from the people who will be negatively impacted by those bills that you can laugh and cheer and celebrate while you are making choices that will literally hurt people. And in some cases, like we've seen in Texas with the abortion bans, kill people.
Yeah. And so that's exactly what we're dealing with now, that, the maps are, those have been passed. Now we're dealing with an abortion bill that we fought yesterday, and also the bathroom bill that we fought yesterday, where we're basically writing discrimination into law, and people can, take legal action against a person they may think is not the right gender for the bathroom. It's just these crazy make-believe laws that we're putting into place, all just to harm or send a message or intimidate. It's very well known that the representative that put the bill on the floor because they have a primary. And so they're wanting to gain political points for this bill. And so just dealing with all of these experiences and still having to come home and be a mom and pay my bills and do laundry. I just want to go under the covers and not get out of bed for a while.
Hey, I mean, I think you deserve a bit of a vacation. I hope you're you told me the other day when we were corresponding about like logistics for the show and stuff that you're not going back in until 2027. Is that right? You're not going to go back and vote on anything, or you're not going back into session? How does that work?
Yes. So every regular session for us takes place on odd years. So we just did 2025. We were called to special session number 1, which is the one we broke quorum for, special session number 2, which is the one we are currently in. And we were looking to how we call sine die, which is the end of quorum, to terminate yesterday, but it looks like that's not the case, and we're going to instead end next week, fingers crossed. But then once it's over, and if no other special session is called, then I don't do this process over again until 2027. Now, I do want to say that I believe 30 of my colleagues just sent a letter to Governor Abbott calling for him to call for a third special session so that they can redistrict all of our districts for the people that left for quorum break.
Oh my God. That's extreme. Do you think they're going to go through with that?
There's like a part of me that's like, they're not going to do that. But then there's the other part of me that's like, they're willing to do anything and everything. So I think what it tells me is that they're obviously very scared of how they're polling. We know that Governor Abbott, since this entire quorum break, is polling much lower than what he was, which is great. And it's really affecting them. The decisions that they have made are truly affecting them. The bills that they signed during regular session where we're defunding public schools. What is crazy to me is that their behavior isn't like, maybe we should behave better, maybe we should change the way we do things if the people don't like what we're doing. And instead, they're doing the opposite, which is more of how they're behaving. More cheating, more power grabbing, more, I don't know.
And I don't want to harp on the sensitivity thing too much, but to me, that just looks so insecure. That looks like a group of people who are weak and scared. And instead of saying, why am I weak? Why am I scared? What, like you just said, like, what am I doing wrong that people don't want to vote for me again? That I'm scared to go into the 2026 midterms? I don't know. If it was me, I'd maybe take the feedback, but it sounds like they're not taking the feedback very well.
Yeah, no. And I really, truly just hope that we have activated our community members to take action and, deliver results at the polls. At this point, that's where my hope is. That's where my energy wants to go into. This was so hard on me, Eliza. I cannot tell you. I mean, I did tell you, how hard this has been and what I'm going through personally to move through this. But I want to tell you that despite it being this difficult and, I am committed to doing this again. And my heart won't let me otherwise. Also, we're in session for about 6 months out of the year, every other year. To put a new person in my place, another new person in my place, is irresponsible. We need to make sure that we have members that have a multitude of sessions in the Democratic Party under their belt, because we're learning how to fight. We're learning how to be strategic. We're learning how all of this works. For someone like me that doesn't have, I'm not a lawyer. I don't practice law. I don't have a political background. I'm learning something entirely new. And so I understand that my first session is going to be of value to my second session, and those 2 sessions will be of value to my third session. And I know I'm going to strengthen, and I know I'm going to sharpen my ability to fight on the floor and bring up points and understand the rules of the House. And I am committed to do that. I am committed to fighting for my constituents learning and executing to the best of my ability.
I am so excited to see where the rest of this term takes you. And it's been really cool to see you fighting, you and your colleagues. I'm in California. I feel like, our state was really in conversation with the Texas Democrats, picking up your energy and seeing what we could do with the energy that you generated. I'm really excited about the special session that we have coming up to vote on those maps. Obviously, as a Democrat, gerrymandering is never my choice. But what I like about the way Newsom has written this upcoming bill is that we won't do this unless Texas does this. And I like that it's about leveraging power, not stealing it.
And he still left it up to the people. You all still get to vote on these maps, which is another important component. In addition to what you just mentioned, is that it's a trigger bill, meaning that even if, we passed it on the floor and it passed on the Senate, and then when we sue and if it does get taken down by the Supreme Court, at that point, your maps will not go into place.
Yeah.
Which is very responsible of him to do. And I think the system that California has set up in terms of having a commission that gets to work on these maps is so vital. And, hopefully we start to see that across the country. I know we've tried here in Texas and it's been a no-go, but I'm hoping that one day we become the majority in Texas. Again, I like to remind people that there was once upon a time where Texas was a Democratic state. And I believe it still is. I really believe it still is. It's just gerrymandered.
Linda, thank you so much for answering all my questions. We will be back at some point with we will be talking about finance.
I can't wait.
At some point.
I will be so happy when I can get back to a sense of normalcy and be on the stock market. And I'm so ready for it. Yes, I cannot wait.
I think we had to take this beat, though, because you were going through something that wasn't just extraordinary. I think this is once in a lifetime stuff. And talking to you today really helped me see that even more clearly, that this is extraordinary. And we have to take a beat to digest that with the Investies community. So thanks again for being so generous with sharing your experiences with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I love you guys.
We love you too.
You're listening to Investies, a Cosmic Standard and In Luz We Trust production. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.
Breaking up is never easy, but saying goodbye to your old clunky work tools? Well, that's easy. Just repeat after me. It's not me, it's definitely you, you rigid, unfriendly software. It's time to freshen things up with Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use. With stunning dashboards, customizable templates, and built-in AI that actually works, switching to a new work platform has never felt this good. So move on to Monday.com.